Can you do me a favor with these colors? Who is listening to me? Can you? Okay, excellent. It's odd talking to microphones, so yeah. Welcome to my session. My name is Arndt, Chief Customer Officer from smartShift with the company since we started in 2002. And as we said, we want to talk a little about SAP Clean Core and custom code in this session. I don't want to give a marketing pitch here, but also do more little education session on what is Clean Core and what does it mean, right? There's a lot of fuss out in the market. There's also a lot of push, obviously, to do something in this area. I want to ground it a little on what it is, and I especially want to talk a little around a pragmatic approach towards Clean Core from a custom code perspective. Why from a custom code perspective? Because that is obviously one of the important elements of a clean SAP core. And by the way, that's the topic we are working in since 20 plus years. Just one slide on the company. I promise that is all when it comes to marketing here. As I said, we started the companies 20 years ago. Always having in mind that customers, SAP customers, have highly customized their SAP systems. And SAP is giving challenges when you move to newer releases, newer technology and stuff, and you have to actually care about your customizations. And since this time, when it was at the start Unicode projects, we said to help customers future-proof and modernize their customizations, we don't want that the traditional way with a lot of tons of ABAP developers, but we want to do it with automation, right? And that is where we are. We started with Unicode, then came customers who had performance problems in code, customers with security problems in code, then came the HANA database, then came S/4HANA, and now comes the new Clean Core principles. And what stays the same is we address challenges for these transformations with automation. We have done that 3,500 times, 3,500 transformation projects globally, a lot of S/4HANA projects, fixed tons and millions of lines of custom code. And usually our customers are the customers who have a lot of custom codes, enterprise customers. I was just on stage 1 hour ago with the largest retailer in Denmark, selling group, who also migrated with our help to S/4HANA. So let's get started. When we talk about SAP ERP systems, right? There's two groups, I always say. There's the greenfield customers, right? We will start up with a new system. This is a complete different world, right? Most of the customers are running SAP systems for at least 10 years, sometimes 20, even 30 years, right? And they are challenged with what they have today. They are challenged because the way these systems are implemented means they are really complex to handle, right? They have a lot of legacy problems. They're complex to handle. They are highly customized, which has an impact on how you run your SAP system. And it has especially one impact, which means accessibility to new versions from SAP, right? You all know these lengthy SAP upgrades with month of test regressions, which you have to do when you move to a new software version. So that is on the one hand a technical problem. On the other hand, it means also that you can't access the innovations which are coming from Waldorf at the end, right? So these systems are blocking you, and you're spending a lot of time to keep the lights on in the systems, and you don't spend so much time on innovation, right? If you look at your teams, you will also see that a lot of many team members are focused on just maintenance work, right? Regression testing, stuff like that. And they are not focusing on building new applications, new innovations in the system. So this is actually the reason why SAP came up with the Clean Core principle, right? And I just want to do some myth busting here. Clean Core is not only about enhancements and customizations, right? That is the aspect I'm talking about today, but Clean Core means much more, right? It means also clean data. Our great partner here from SAP will help with that. It means also operations. It means infrastructure management. It means how you manage interfaces and stuff like that, right? But one core concept of Clean Core is how you address and how you manage your customizations in your system. And that is just to set the stage. That is what I'm talking about today. I'm talking purely about enhancements and customizations on your Clean Core journey. And SAP actually did a good job, right? With this, they actually, obviously, they saw the need. They saw that it is hard for legacy SAP customers to actually adopt new software. And so therefore, they came up with a good concept around how you should enhance and customize your SAP system in the future so that these systems are at the end upgrade stable and easy to upgrade. And you might also have seen this picture here. So SAP has come up with a new extensibility concept. There's different ways of how you can extend a system. There is, on the one hand, you have your BTP platform, where you can actually implement so-called side-by-side extensions. You can do that in ABAP, in RESTful ABAP programming, but you can also do that in other runtimes, right? But that's also important to understand. Clean Core, from an extensibility perspective, does not mean that all customizations are on BTP, right? That is just one way of enhancing your system, and everything has its place, right? While building a mobile application might make sense to have it on BTP, it doesn't make sense to have a highly transactional application sitting on BTP because of latency issues. You better put it closer to the core. But SAP gives us also this opportunity to do it, to do extensibility in the future, also close to the core, but following Clean Core principles, right? And in this area, you talk about so-called key user extensions, which is I would call it the low-code version of enhancing the systems, right? If you want to build a workflow, or if you want to add a custom field or stuff like that, you would do it actually utilizing that. But you also have the pro-code version, right? You can also build ABAP applications close to the core, utilizing the new Clean Core principles, meaning building RESTful ABAP programming, utilizing just whitelisted APIs, not making direct table calls and stuff like that, right? So at the end, SAP came up with a really comprehensive set of recommendations, but also the technology platform to make it easy for you to build applications in the future, and to actually enhance your system in a way that it is easy upgradable. And ideally, nothing happens when you upgrade the system because you just rely on available APIs in the system. So that's the theory, right? That is what you have available today. The problem is, since the good old days, you had all options to enhance your SAP system, right? SAP always has been super gracious to us developers how to enhance an SAP system. You could do pretty much everything. There's no limitation to utilize which APIs you are using. You can do direct table updates. You can even do hardcore modifications of the SAP standard, right? So a broad set of options which you had in your system. And that is actually the world where most customers live on, right? They have highly extended their SAP systems in this old way, right? They have these old classic extensions sitting in their system. And there are many of them, right? I spoke about it earlier. We have done around about 3,500 transformation projects. We built a nice benchmark database internally. And this is real numbers here, right? So the average SAP system, ECC system out there has 22,000 custom objects with holding 2.7 million lines of custom code, right? So highly extended. And all done in a very old-fashioned classic way. What is also a nice fact here, what you see here, 40 to 60% of these old customizations are only in use in these systems, right? And if we talk about Clean Core, the easiest way of getting closer to a Clean Core is getting rid of unused code from your system, right? Because it's out of the system, you don't have to take care about it, and decommissioning 40% out of your system makes your system already much cleaner from a core perspective. What comes on top, as I said, these systems have been enhanced all the old classical way, right? And that means when you want to move them to more modern principles, there's a lot of change impact. Only bringing them to HANA and S4HANA is already a lot of changes, right, guys? If you guys have gone through an S4HANA transformation, you know that you have to actually fix and address thousands of issues in the code only to do that. But that is only a part of it, right? It is moving to the new Clean Core principles means also, for example, that you have to follow new ABAP standards, right? The ABAP cloud standards. So there is, again, thousands of issues just to correct the syntax. And then comes on top that you have to change the whole programming style from your old classic procedural or object-oriented ABAP to the new way of how you do things. And you have to change your table calls, you have to change your APIs and stuff like that, right? So therefore, sometimes when you listen to some marketing messages, it seems like, okay, I go to S4, there's a magic button, I click it and I'm Clean Core and I follow Clean Core principles. That might be easy for customers who build a new system, right? Clean Core with a greenfield approach. But for an old, hairy SAP system, it's not that easy. And the reason for that is these systems are big and highly customized, right? You could say now, so let's start from scratch, right? Let's get rid of all the code in your system. We actually asked our customers, and we do that on a yearly basis together with the American SAP user group, why you need customizations in your system. And you will get different answers there. There's also some answers I would not fully support, right? Why do I need actually code for reporting reasons, right? There might be easier standard ways of doing reporting in a system, but there's also really good reasons, right? A lot of our customers need custom code to actually build industry-specific processes which are not available in SAP per se, right? We work a lot with oil and gas customers. If you look at the downstream system in oil and gas, there's not all standard functionality available, right? So you need to have customizations. And it helps you to support the processes, but it helps you also to differentiate yourself from other customers. And so it is not easy to just say, I just get rid of everything. There is a certain core of customizations which are really important for you, right? And that is the important part. First step of getting to a Clean Core is trying to find out what is this important part for me. That is not an easy question, right? I talked about getting rid of unused code from the system. That might be a good start, right? To get just from a technical perspective, look what is used in your system for a certain retention period. But then also obviously looking into where can I go back to standard, where can I use standard processes, and then what is the core of my customizations which I need to keep and retain and then modernize towards the new extensibility concepts. How you do that is now the question. So if you have identified these customizations which you want to take over, really for example, in the first step in a brownfieldish approach or in a selective approach, you always have the choice to either do that in a manual way, right? You go the old path with a big team of developers. The problem with this approach usually is you get mixed quality, you need a lot of time, and you bind these resources for tasks which are usually, my American friends always call this type of work monkey work, right? You utilize them for tedious syntax fixing and changing in the system. So we strongly believe that skilled IT personnel nowadays should be utilized for other stuff than fixing syntax and changing technical stuff in a system. But most important, this manual approach always will limit you to what you also can do manually, right? And I showed you some numbers, thousands of objects, change impact, hundreds of thousands issues you have to do. This is just not feasible from a workload perspective. And therefore, usually the manual approach says, then let's limit the work. And even especially in S4HANA transformations, we will often see that manual approaches just focus on fixing a Prio 1 or Prio 2 issue from ADC, but they are not looking into new standards and stuff like that. right? And so therefore, we at smartShift, as I said, we believe in automation. We have an intelligent automation platform which we have built in the past 20 years with 11 patents sitting on in this platform. And it's a pretty simple approach. So we take custom code out of an SAP system, load it into our intelligent automation platform. And the first thing what we do is we deconstruct everything, right? We have our own ABAP parser, we build a meta model of the code, and we also enhance this model then to understand data flow, dependencies, stuff like that. We build this model, and then based on this model, we do automated analysis and transformation, right? So for example, we identify a non-performant syntax issue in the code. You are using a select star on a S4HANA on a HANA database. We could fix that then automatically. And from these algorithms, we have hundreds of algorithms in different categories which can bring your code to S4HANA. They can actually make the code faster, more performant, more secure, and following, for example, latest ABAP syntax. Just to give you a number, the power of this tool for Procter & Gamble, for example, bringing their supply chain system to S4HANA, this platform was doing 1.3 million changes in their code in a couple of computing hours, right? So this is very mighty, very powerful, and especially it's super precise because we don't rely on manual labor. It gives you repeatable quality. And for example, Procter & Gamble, 1.3 million changes. We had like 20 odd tickets in testing. We had Selling Group here just an hour ago, 250,000 changes in the code, 12 tickets in testing, right? So it's industry scale quality which we apply. And we actually integrate the whole platform into a delivery model. So we are not delivering software at the end. We want to guarantee outcomes and deliver outcomes and guarantees to you as a customer. And so therefore you buy from us turnkey solutions, right? We start with an analysis, we do this S4HANA transformation, and then we actually also help with dual maintaining systems. Once you started to copy your ECC to S4, we do the automated dual maintenance. And nowadays, also help you to change towards these to these new Clean Core principles. And that is where I want to spend the last 10 minutes on how we do that and what we do in this area. I already talked about this magic button, right? Where's this magic button which brings me to a Clean Core? The answer is there is no magic button. So therefore, when you really talk about having an old, hairy, customized SAP, When we are really talking about bringing an old system to the new Clean Core principles, we need to talk about a pragmatic approach and especially an approach which is agile and implements different phases. So what we usually propose that in a first project, that can be the S4HANA transformation, but that can be also an S4HANA upgrade, for example, we do a mass transformation of the code, right? So we would take out unused code from the system, also in a highly automated fashion, get out these 40%, and then do really a big cleanup and make the code compliant to latest syntax standards, also bringing it to ABAP cloud standards and stuff like that, right? In this first step, doing a lot of cleanup and shifting left efforts, which you anyhow have to do to get to the next step, to these new extensibility concepts. And then you actually start to assess what you have left in your system. You map it also to the business processes you are supporting in the system, and then you start to gradually, in an agile manner, updating and refreshing the code to the new concepts. And this can be also done. It can be either done by business process, or it can be also done on a broad base where you, for example, just address a certain upgradability issue in the code. And just to give you an idea on the timelines here, I talked about Procter & Gamble. This first step, this mass transformation, this usually can be easy, right? Depends on the S4HANA transformation timeline. That's around a year, right, where you do that. But then taking an old monolithic ABAP repository and migrating it to the new principles, that can be multiple years even, right, to get there. And the important point is, and that is where we come to the next slide, the important point is you need to define the goals, what you want to achieve, right? Not everyone has the pleasure and the budgets to go the full path at the end, right? To really follow all these nice extensibility concepts. Maybe your challenge is just making the upgrade easier, right, in the future, right? So make your system more upgradable. And so the journey might end somewhere earlier and you don't go the full path at the end. And so therefore, when you start your Clean Core journey, it's important to actually exactly talk about this. What are my objectives? What's the value I want to get? And what is my timeline I want to spend on that? Second point is, as I said, you need to have a clear segmentation strategy on how you want to address that. As I said, the change impact is still super big. You have to do a lot of work. And so therefore, you have to actually understand how you want to address it. Do you want to start with a certain business process? Do you want to do a cleanup of all your interfaces in a certain go of all your APIs? And how you want to go about that. Another important point is, Clean Core is still, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago when SAP came up with the concept. It is still an early concept, right? And there's a lot of stuff evolving. A lot of the Clean Core principles have been built for greenfield customers, right? And there was not so much thinking about actually the old legacy systems. So therefore also guidance is changing in these areas a lot. Last point, what's also important, as this change impact is so big, you also have to think about metrics, right? How do you want to measure progress in your Clean Core journey? Is it reducing number of objects in the system? Is it fixing issues in the code? Stuff like that, right? You need to have clear metrics how you can follow how you are progressing on this path to a cleaner core. This is a pretty content-heavy slide, so I don't want to go into all details here, but that shows some of the activities which we as smartShift provide along the roadmap as automated solutions towards a cleaner core. The little green bubble here is, it's always important to talk, as I said, about back to standard, right? It is, besides getting rid of unused code, back to standard, it's also what we all want to achieve. We want to get as close back to standard as possible. We as smartShift, we support this area with helping you to understand where are these back to standard opportunities. We are doing that also with automation, and that is something to focus on. But for the rest of the customizations, there's different steps which we support with automation. As I said, it is the mass code transformation, syntax level alignment. Then we are doing a lot of stuff, for example, in the area of aligning the code to the new APIs, right? You should not just randomly use every API available. You should bring it to these whitelisted APIs. We have automation for that. We just built also automation for replacing direct table calls and replacing them with CDS views, also in automated way. You have to think about your old append structures, how you extend tables, right? Where in the classic way, you have your custom fields. In the new way, you have to build key user extensions, custom fields, and you actually have to change that. We also build automation for that, right? And that is what smartShift will also continue to do on this path towards Clean Core, to actually automate bits and pieces of this long journey to make it easier. Clean Core will be never, for, as I said, for Procter & Gamble, this is automation. We have automation rates like 99% for moving from ECC to S4. For Clean Core, we are talking about changing completely the programming architecture and style, right? So we will never have a fully automated solution in this area, But what we will have is we will have a lot of automation which makes this whole process much easier, but expect it to be an agile process over a longer period of time. Final thing I want to mention in this context. We have seen now a lot of customers who moved on to S/4HANA. They even moved to the latest releases, 2022, 2023, but they continue building extensions in the old style, right? So you're pretty much adding all the time still to your technical debt. So therefore, also when you move to S/4HANA, it's so important to invest in standards, in training, so that you don't add to the technical debt which you have in the system. With that, I'm pretty much at the end of the half hour here. There's an easy way of starting working with us. We have a so-called rapid code analysis, which is running through this whole process in a very rapid way to see what is in your system. If you like to hear more about it, we are here just in this corner there. And I will be available in the speaker corner for the next 15 minutes. So I hope I didn't confuse you too much, and I hope you're still interested in the whole topic of Clean Core. I think what's really important, don't try to boil the ocean in this area, right? That is, as I said, there's a lot of odd marketing out there, also of making promises around that. You really need to be very pragmatic about this topic, and you need to define your own goals, what you want to achieve with it, and not just do something because someone somewhere says something, you should do it, right? Again, the company which was on stage with me here this morning, for them, Clean Core, the important factor is not having all applications on BTP or whatever. For them, the most important Clean Core aspect is upgradability of the system, right? How do I make my next upgrade much less invasive? Not having 8 months of regression cycles, but 6 months and stuff like that. So with a customer like that, why not start focusing on some of the important stuff which breaks your system when you upgrade, right? Work on the APIs, work on the table calls, get rid of unused code, make your code more stable and stuff like that, right? And maybe that's it. And then you reached your Clean Core goal and you don't have to go the full path at the end. With that, thank you so much for your time. And I'm happy to take questions later on in the speaker corner.